Hi everyone, welcome back and welcome to another reading. This will be your general read for October 2023 for those of you who have a Gemini sun, moon, or rising. And if you don't identify as a Gemini and it's the title or the thumbnail that drew you to this read, I encourage you to stick around. Sure, it may not be your sun, moon, or rising, but it is a certainty that you have Gemini in one of your houses, and whichever house that is in for you, it just depends on what your sun sign is in. So there may be something meaningful that you can take from this reading and apply in that particular part of your life. If what we talk about here doesn't make a whole lot of sense, then I suggest that you check out one of the more recent Gemini videos that we released and give this one a watch in about a month or so. Before we get started, I'd also like to thank you to those of you who have donated and for the kind words that you've said to me. It was some much needed encouragement to keep releasing these videos. I wasn't entirely certain if they were being appreciated or valued or watched, and the messages that I've been receiving via PayPal have motivated me to keep going. I have the comments disabled, and you may be wondering, if the comments were open, then perhaps those kind messages would go there. But I just want to preserve the environment that we have, and if something hits a little bit too close to home, there's a tendency for some to get defensive. And that just undermines my whole reason for doing this. It's not to read you to filth and make you feel bad about yourself. The purpose of this it's about self-analysis, and it's about accountability. Holding others accountable, but also holding ourselves accountable. And I feel as though that is the adult way that we should approach readings, and I think that it's just so saturated. There's so many videos out there that will tell you that the world is the problem. And that's nice, and it's easy to hear, but anyone who is rational knows that the most valuable and good for you people in your life are the ones who are willing to tell you the truth about yourself. And that's the kind of friend I want to be to you. That being said, let's talk about October. That disagreement is going nowhere. Is there some kind of argument or fight that just seems like it's an exercise in futility, or that it's just dragging? Especially if there's it doesn't necessarily have to be an Aries, but it could just be Martian energy, right? It is about war, it is about combat, it is about battle. This is what we were talking about. Aries being Mars ruled, and Mars coming out first in your read. And there is the sand in your eye. You're like, if they're going to fight, then they should at least fight fair. And my question is, are you fighting fair? And it's important that we, ask ourselves that question, right? Assuming that, let's say we live in a world where we get exactly what we put out there. Let's say we live in a world that we get exactly what's coming to us. What you're encountering, as convenient as it is to assume the role of victim or assume the role of the heroine, the vast majority of times we have a hand in our circumstances. And the sooner we realize that we have the ability to impact those circumstances and change them by our own volition, by our own strength and our own will, that's also what this Emperor card is about, the more likely we are to change said circumstances. But, we only ever really get to that point if we're willing to forego the tendency or the trend to be petty. We really only get to that point if we're willing to take the tempered route and if we're willing to take the high road. What is it Michelle Obama said? When they go low, we go high. I may have triggered one or two of you with that, but I don't care. It's the truth. It's the surefire way to make sure that your conscience is clear. And I think that the worst thing that you can do when someone is throwing mud at you is to throw mud back and dirty your hands as well. When someone is throwing mud at you, you go to work and you go inward. You just how secure are you in who you are? Just how secure are you in your masculinity? For some, it's easy to get rattled. It's easy to lose your temper. But any conqueror will tell you that if you don't have control over your emotions, you'll lead people astray and your life will be in shambles. All the things that you'd like to build will crumble and the foundation will fall apart beneath your feet. And I do think that there are some relationships that you'd like to build or make better. There's Taurus energy here. But how can you love someone if you don't love or value yourself? And that's word to RuPaul. I think that there are times, sure, when you feel like you're the shit and, you're right. But there are times when you think that you're owed something. Whether that's an apology or that you're owed some kind of break or a chance. You're just like, give me a break. And my question to you is, have you laid the foundation for that? Have you created an environment in which you are worthy of one? Or how people dealing with you or is the way that people are dealing with you a direct result of the way that you've dealt with them? You like to do this thing where you vacillate in between being, serious and standing for certain things and good things. So you vacillate between that and then also being, lighthearted and maybe not taking things as seriously as you maybe should. Yeah, I know I'm like reading you right now. I'm not going to apologize because we need to talk about it. And I just think that, people don't forget that version of you when you weren't taking it seriously. They still have their memories to go off of. They still have the way you made them feel and the experience they had with you to go off of. And you may feel as though, that was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and I'm a different person now. And, I used to do those things. I used to think like that, but that's not how I feel right now. And that's perfectly fine. I do think it's absolutely possible for people to grow and develop and to want different and to be better. But what you can't do is act like what they experienced when they were dealing with you didn't happen. And you can't act like you don't remember, because everybody else does. And they remember how you were behaving. This is sounding like a read, and I know this is really hard to hear, but this is why I'm here. I'm also hearing this is why I'm hot. Something here about police. Also about a red car. Law enforcement. With the justice card coming out. So here we are, Gemini. And in the words of Monique, I don't know if you're familiar with Charm School or if you ever watched that, but when you get involved with that clownery, sooner or later the clown comes back to get you. And there's so much that you can impact. There's so much that you can change if you want to. But I just think it's so easy for these two versions of yourself to live within you. But it's, your coping mechanisms and the way you deal with people. There isn't anything that anyone can really say to make you see that about yourself and make you want to deal with people differently or set yourself up for success. This is something that you have to want to do for yourself. And it will pay in the long run if you do that work. But not before you deal with the consequences of your behavior and of your actions, and not before you pay for the things you said. I think with so many things, it's so easy to haha and hee hee and sweep it under the rug and worry about it later, but you can only do that for so long. You can only fit so much under the rug. And we're talking about this because it is so important for you to embrace this process of addressing and acknowledging things as soon as they come up. Don't put them off until you are overwhelmed and you can't handle it. You know the way that story ends. So don't do that to yourself. They're not going to let you get away with forgetting. They're not going to let you get away with you being a first timer. If you're drowning and you don't ask for help, if you're overwhelmed and you don't ask for help, then there's no one else that you can blame. I fear I may lose a subscriber or two for talking like this, but I don't care. You know, the ones who unsubscribe because of this, because of what we're talking about, then they don't need to be here anyway. And if you don't understand where I'm coming from or why we're talking about this, and if you don't get that this is not mean-spirited and that it's not meant to drag you, it's meant to help you, then this message is not for you. And like we said, you know, if you're feeling receptive in about a month or two to where you want to give this another watch, then it'll be here. I hope this helped, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.